Merriweather Golf Course was clouded in a thick fog early this morning, but nothing could stop Adele Bannerman shining through with a solid opening 9 holes. In the 36-hole match play final of the Women's Amateur Championship, Bannerman was 4 up on her Sydney rival Natalie Parkinson before going further in front on 9. As some were predicting an early finish, Parkinson hit back on the par 5 10th. Her approach set up birdie, and while she missed the putt, Bannerman also struggled with the break, her lead cut to 4. But that's as bad as it got for Australia's #1 ranked amateur, Bannerman's consistency helping her recover to 5 up after 18. The match called off on the 28th hole when Parkinson was 9 down with only 8 holes to go. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
It's a voice familiar to the thousands of ships that pass through the port each year, but few would recognise his face. For 14 years, the last 3 of them as harbour master, Les Stevens has kept vigil and helped shepherd ships into port in good weather and in bad.
We've had very big winds and waves off the entrance. The biggest I've seen recorded here in my time is 13.4 metres off the entrance, so that was a big one.
Today was Les's last in the tower at Nobby's signal station, farewelled by those he's watched over. The one enduring memory that will live with Les from his time in the tower, though, is not one of ships in difficulty, but the day the earth shook in Newcastle.
For about 30 minutes that day, we were the only ones in contact with Sydney, and we, through our radios and our contact with Sydney Radio, we instigated a few ambulances to come forth to Newcastle, and we spread the word down there that there was actually an earthquake here.
Les's last day was one of mixed emotion. Sad to be leaving the job he loves, but looking forward to a life travelling Australia. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Peter Scott was back in training today. The redhead paddler finalising his preparations for the World Championships. Just as he did in 1995, Scott will race in the K4 sprint in Canada, but will have to fight off a challenge from Clint Robinson to secure the berth in the K1. The selector's decision to stage a race-off has been met with a mixed response. Scott blitzed the Australian title this year, and some believe that should have won automatic selection in his favourite event.
You know, I think I deserve it, and I really want to sort of force that home to the selectors so I can race the Worlds.
Coach Ben Hutchings has no doubt the 23-year-old has what it takes to go all the way in Canada and ultimately Sydney 2000. It's a big rap from a man who's been there before. Hutchings has taken 5 New Zealand paddlers to an Olympic gold medal.
If we can just keep that steady improvement going and not try and jump too many rungs in the ladder at once and just really put down that foundation, it's a distinct possibility.
Scott leaves at the end of the week, joining his teammates overseas for a final fortnight of training.
Yeah, I think this year the team will probably have the best results ever. I mean, it's a few new guys in the team, but Australia's depth has really gone ahead in leaps and bounds over the last couple of years.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
.38-year-old Deborah Ann Bryson, a 7-year-old daughter Sarah and sons 3-year-old Mitchell and 16-year-old Matthew Freeman were killed when the car being driven by Matthew collided with a tourist coach on Lanigan's Drive west of Newcastle. 2 other occupants of the sedan were seriously injured. The coach, with 37 elderly bowlers, was returning to Sydney after a day in the Hunter Valley. The coroner, Derek Hand, heard that after the coach passed over a crest in the road, the driver braked severely and swerved to the wrong side of the road to avoid a bank of traffic ahead of him. Witness Barton Lindsay, who was driving in front of the coach, said he was forced to stop abruptly to avoid the line of traffic. When questioned about the coach, the witness claimed it was as if the bus driver had not seen the stop in the traffic. Counsel for the coach company also questioned witnesses whether they'd seen a white utility in the left breakdown lane, forcing the coach into the northbound lane. All witnesses replied no. The inquest concludes tomorrow. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
After 10 years in recess, the Tournament of Champions is back. And from the word on the greens, it's back with a vengeance. With $20,000 up for grabs, the event at Soldiers Point Bowling Club has rolled up a top-class field, with several players coming from interstate. The tournament started this morning with sectional play in the 4s. Leading the early charge, the team skippered by Beresfield's Dennis Dalton. The state skipper led by example, taking his side to a 6-0 lead after only 3 ends, maintaining the advantage before finishing on top 25-19. The surprise of the day, a loss for Rex Johnson's team. The Australian skipper couldn't match it in opening round action, and he'll need to win tomorrow to keep in the chase for Thursday's finals, while Victorian ace Phil Godkin survived a scare in his match, winning 19-17. Pairs competition kicks off on Wednesday, with the singles event set to wind up next week. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
It was a presentation ceremony with a difference, when students at Jules Primary School acknowledged their Achievement Award in Performing Arts by staging a colourful production. More than 300 students participated in the performance, which was written by staff and related to Newcastle's beginnings as a penal settlement. At Gateshead Public School, an Indigenous theme ran through the presentation ceremony. The school was recognised by the Department of Education for its success at both meeting the special needs of some students yet integrating them into the mainstream school system. The Assistant Director General of Education, Dr Alan Loughlin, was at both ceremonies to present the awards. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
Operating in the Tomago area for more than 30 years, RZM has been battling dwindling oil reserves and environmental concerns over the past couple of years.
This is not about productivity, it's not about efficiency, it's about the fact that the ore we're mining will be depleted by the end of next year and there's nothing more for us to do.
Workers who fought for their jobs during a campaign by conservationists to protect a local koala population now have to accept the inevitable when the plant closes before the end of next year.
We defended it in the public interest and in the interest of employment and jobs in the region and prosperity for the families of the employees who work for us.
As well as undertaking the rehabilitation of its mine sites, RZM has hired employment consultants to help guide workers toward new jobs.
This situation will occur before any BHP retrenchments, and so hopefully our people will get the benefit of what employment there is around before BHP employees start coming onto the employment market themselves.
As the international community prepares to set limits on greenhouse gas emissions to reduce global warming, the state government is speeding up the approvals process for coal mines. Visiting the Bengala mine site today, the Minister for Planning, Craig Knowles, launched the new guidelines, which he claims will simplify the application process.
Providing a single set of rules, a single approval system, so the mining industry, those who seek to invest, can understand clearly what the rules of the game are.
This means when investors want to open a new mine, the relevant government agencies will have just 28 days to set the conditions for a development application. They will then be combined into one document by an appointed coordinator. The Minister says the process will be less confusing to both investors and objectors and ensure that environmental safeguards are improved. Vehemently opposed to this mine, Rosemount Estate fought for 3 years in Commission of Inquiries and various courts to stop it from going ahead. But it was all to no avail, the Minister last year stepping in to approve the mine. And while the public submission process remains unchanged, Mr Noel believes the new guidelines will avoid another Bengala from happening again.
I think Bengala simply demonstrates that major investment projects need the attention of state governments.
Every dog has its day, and in Muswellbrook at the weekend, it'll be the Blue Heeler's turn to lap up the glory.
It's the Blue Heeler country, and Muswellbrook are trying to say, well, this is where Blue Heelers started, and we're going to have them here.
The cattle dogs will be honoured as their greyhound counterparts hurtle down the track in Saturday's meet called Blue Heeler Country. They'll even get a chance to race themselves the following weekend when they're let loose to chase the lure. It's all part of the opening ceremonies for the club's new kennel facilities.
We are proud of them, yes. I'd like to go and see a better set of kennels, and I think other clubs may come here and see what we've got, and they might do likewise.
The $200,000 building can house up to 112 greyhounds in large kennels with a viewing area for owners and punters to watch the dogs before a race. A vet's lab, steward's room and swab kennels for drug testing have also been added. The Minister for Gaming and Racing will officially open the building on Saturday. Simone Cobb, NBN News. Dean Waters walked into Newcastle Supreme Court this morning, his future in the hands of a jury.
How are you feeling, Dean?
I'm not sure.
The former heavyweight champion confessed to the killing of his stepmother's lover last year. However, the jury today accepted that he was carrying out his father's will, not his own, when he shot Alan Hall 9 years ago, finding him not guilty of murder or manslaughter. For 9 days, the jury heard example after example of the shocking abuse and degradation the 4 children were subjected to by Sess Waters. As the verdict was announced, Dean broke down, his family and legal counsel all overcome with emotion.
That this was an extraordinary case involving extraordinary facts, and it is due to the courage of this man to do what I don't imagine there would be too many other people in the community would be able to do.
According to Mr Konditsis and Dean's family, it's the result they expected all along. What makes it so extraordinary, though, is that just a few months ago, the man who helped Dean kill Alan Hall was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to 12 years jail. Damon Cooper has lodged an appeal. His wife Julie was in court for the verdict.
Obviously the wrong decision was made in my husband's case.
Today is just another chapter in the incredible saga of the Waters family. In the boxing world, they were royalty. The 3 brothers, Dean, Guy and Troy, all claiming Australian and Commonwealth titles. But behind the glory was their father, a man described as thoroughly evil. He will, though, never face court for his actions. He died earlier this year of a heart attack.
It's just so confusing to try to understand Sess Waters, you know, and like me, Christine, my brothers, Guy and Troy, and my sister Tracy, we're all victims here. There was no way I could cope with what I'd done, so I had no choice but to get to where I'm at now.
The operation is targeting antisocial behaviour around the Hunter Street Mall, West End and Foreshore. "50 police, including Highway Patrol, the Dog Squad and Transit Police, have been concentrated into the operation. The number of people on the streets boosted when Marathon Stadium emptied after the night's Manly game. Police concentrated their efforts on breath testing motorists in the area. More than 200 tests were carried out and 26 infringement notices issued. As drink flowed late into the night, foot patrols took to the railway stations and licensed clubs. Car crews also gathered intelligence on prostitution activities around Islington. The operation continues tonight.
Blackbutt Reserve, covering some 500 hectares, is the single biggest pocket of bushland left in Newcastle. Those who've worked to preserve it describe it as the lungs of the city. Today, almost 100 people braved the rain to protest a proposal to sell off 6 blocks of land on its boundaries.
Whenever you build a house, there is an effect from the house that goes in 10 or 20 metres into Blackbutt Reserve that destroys the integrity of Blackbutt Reserve.
The council argues money from the sale, estimated at about $600,000, could be spent preserving other areas.
We have to weigh up the amenity of this area against the needs of the rest of Newcastle.
The proposed sale of the land has gone before council twice without a decision. Those on council opposed to the sale say it simply doesn't make sense.
When we know that there will be more people wanting to visit it, occupy it and so forth, and the larger it is, the better it will be.
The council has promised to consult the community fully before a final decision is made.
Please rest assured that we will try to work with you to preserve what you see as the most valuable aspect of this.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
The Knights might have lost last Friday's match against Manly, but they came away happy that they'd taken the game to the wire in front of a crowd of more than 25,000. A couple of dubious calls by the referee might have made the difference on the scoreboard, but as far as the coach and the side are concerned, they've worked out a winning combination.
I think the team's coming of age. We've got to prove that. But I'm in a very positive frame of mind, and I believe the team is capable of doing anything. It's noticeable that our kicking game has probably in the last game been the best of the season.
And the team stacks up well for Sunday's Steel City Challenge against Illawarra at Steelers Stadium, with Brett Grogan back in the pack along with the Johns boys and the Chief, confident of a win against a firming Illawarra.
The players that are back now and coupled with the end of the year, I think you'll see us improve again from last week.
Meanwhile, on the other side of town, the Mariners have a long haul ahead for their away game against the Perth Reds on Sunday. In what he calls his toughest selection yet, coach Graham Murray has put Brett Camorley in at half ahead of Noel Goldthorpe, who's been relegated to reserves.
How Brett got there in the first place was outstanding form in reserve grade. So now the pressure's on Brett to stay in first and Noel to come up.
Sealing a place in the World Cup Challenge after last Sunday's trouncing of Sheffield, the Mariners must focus on the local competition.
It's a huge opportunity for us to make the semi-finals, and that's our goal. So we've got 3 games to do that. But Wigan's a bit of a time away. It's the 11th of October at this stage, so we've got to concentrate on the Telstra Cup.
And all our wonderful helpers and see what's been that prison we can go back through and it'll print it.
To be able to focus your attention in on those and knowing that your other...
It's up to alarm for all of those functions.
Disaster in grief and...
We're delighted that she could fit us in this.
You can see this display, they can see the screen. So
These bicycles, barbecues and electrical goods are just some of the $20,000 worth of household items found by police during their 3-day swoop. After targeting drug and property offences throughout the Port Stephens area, police are finally reaping the rewards of months of surveillance.
It could be considered to be an extremely good breakthrough and one that we would hope to repeat should similar offences occur in the future.
So far there have been 6 arrests and 132 charges. 35 stolen vehicles have been recovered, 67 break, enter and steal offences cleared up and more than $140,000 worth of drugs seized. There have been 20 charges of property theft, including stealing from cars and setting them on fire. Today, a 22-year-old Nelson Bay man pleaded guilty to 13 break, enter and steal and motor vehicle charges at Raymond Terrace Court. A 15-year-old male, also from Nelson Bay, faced 35 charges of stealing cars. Police are confident of laying charges related to a further 55 break, enter and steal offences. And while today officially marks the end of the task force, police say the operation is far from over.
If a community perception is that the operation is now completed, that would be incorrect.
They're investigating other offenders and expect similar results. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Stuart Jones was one notable absence from Newcastle training. As the rest of the side consolidated on last week's big win over Randwick, he was battling injury. Medial ligament damage has sidelined the Newcastle captain this week. However, that win has done a great deal of lifting team spirits. The Wildfires are again looking to the finals, knowing they need to win almost every match to be there.
Yeah, we're a long shot, but if we win it, keep winning every week from now on. We've got Penrith tomorrow and North next week. They're 2 games we should win, and then from then on we'll take it week by week.
It all starts tomorrow. Newcastle travels to Sydney to meet Penrith.
We're always wary of them, and as every team is, they've led some good teams this year. But if we get out there and do our job right, well, we should have it easy in the end.
Closer to home, it's the second last round of the Newcastle Rugby Union, with home games for the Waratahs, Muswellbrook, Eastern Districts and Maitland. South Newcastle's top 3 position in the NRL goes on the line tomorrow when the Lions travel to the Bay. A win will almost guarantee Souths a double chance in the final series. Most of the other games have little more than pride at stake. And Western and Wallsend kick off the NBN Soccer League round tomorrow, while the highlight of the weekend is the clash between Edgeworth and Broadmeadow. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Irrespective of whether it's a 14 or 16 team combined competition, one thing appears almost certain. In the wash-up, Newcastle will be a one-team town, and it appears that will suit local football fans just fine.
We don't need 2 teams. I think just one team of the best would be fine.
I think it's good. I think it could do a lot for Newcastle and the rest of the competition.
Super League has its good points, but unfortunately in this town there can only be one team. It's not big enough for 2.
Both the Mariners and the Knights are remaining tight-lipped. Speaking from Sydney, Knights Chief Executive Ian Bonnat said the question of mergers will have to wait until league bosses sort out the finance and structure of a combined competition. Sentiments echoed by the Mariners.
Well, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion because obviously a lot of things need to happen before that stage.
While the clubs will have to look long and hard at questions of finance and organisation, league fans say it's a decision they've already been forced to make.
The average worker just cannot afford to go and see the Mariners and go and see the Knights. They can't support the 2 because they haven't got the money.
Meanwhile, the Mariners have quashed speculation they're set to establish a franchise in Glasgow, Scotland.
It was basically mooted by Glasgow Council, and we offered some assistance in trying to get it set up, so it would be run, I think, by them, and there may be a small interest in it for us.
Phil Hind, NBN News. Dr Vic Stenger is Professor of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Hawaii. For the past 10 years, he's also been one of the world's leading skeptics, a role he sees as vital in a world which increasingly wants to bypass science.
You can't just call something nonsense. You can't just say, oh, those guys are crazy. You can't do that. That's not a scientific argument. That's just an ad hominem attack. You have to say why they are.
1997 has seen skeptics thrust into the headlines like never before. The battle over so-called creation science and Noah's Ark ended up before the courts here in Australia. While in America, the opening of the file on the Roswell incident exposed and debunked the world's most famous alien cover-up. Dr Stenger believes, despite the efforts of scientists, such cases will continue to fascinate those who want to believe.
There certainly could be intelligent life in the universe. My particular personal belief is that there's intelligent life in only one place in the universe, and it's not here.
The National Skeptics Convention begins tomorrow at the Western Suburbs Leagues Club and goes till Sunday. Phil Hind, NBN News.
It was a delicate operation, unloading a 6-ton magnet worth nearly $2 million. It's the key part of a magnetic resonance scanner imported by Hunter Valley Medical Imaging at Cardiff. What makes this system different is that it relies on magnetic force instead of ultrasound or radiation to obtain images of the body in different cross-sections. While there's a similar machine at the John Hunter Hospital, this is the first private scanner in the region and is expected to help doctors make a more accurate diagnosis.
This will help us to detect small lesions which we may have otherwise missed in using some of the other equipment.
Technicians will fly in from overseas tomorrow to begin the complex process of setting up the equipment. It's expected to be up and running in the next 6 weeks. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
You.